Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Pop Live. We got Emmett's in the house. There he is.
Hello.
Brian's here. Hey, Brian, love your new blue hairdo. We are talking about virtual conferences because we are, 2 days away from our next virtual conference that we're producing. It's going to be for Hano's annual HanoCon, which is Thursday and Friday this week. If you're a
Brian's
nonprofit.
in leaderboard.
Oh, Brian
Is
is
he number one?
So what she's talking about is for those who are attending and have registered the virtual conference, attendees are able to start earning points in hopes of winning a great prize. And you earn points by being active on the platform that they are going to be broadcasting the conference on. And so he's been quite busy liking things and commenting on stuff and sending messages, even if they are pre-written messages that weren't meant to be personal towards me. Yes.
But he added stuff at the end.
Yeah. But now I'm thinking he just added that and copied and pasted all of that to everyone. Could that be, Brian? Anyways, because we are coming up close on this virtual conference, which coincidentally was the first virtual conference we ever produced last year. So a year later, here we are, several virtual conferences in the game, and we're back where we started. And so a lot has changed and improved and been learned upon as far as producing virtual conferences. So we thought we'd share with you some of our experiences, what we know about virtual conferences, so that maybe your organization, if you're thinking about or maybe haven't thought about but might want to consider doing your conferences virtually, some of the pluses and minuses. So let's get started with what would the reason be for doing a virtual conference versus the traditional in-person conference? Well, of course, because of COVID, there are great limitations to doing an in-person conference right now. But I guess maybe we should start off with what is a virtual conference? Like, how do you actually make a conference virtual? So Jamie's actually attended, not only produced, but also attended virtual conferences. So for those who are curious what it means to have a virtual conference, what is that?
It's just all online.
She always makes me sound so stupid. We're asking you these questions. But I'm trying to like in volleyball where I'm trying to do the set. I'm trying to set the ball up so she can spike it.
I don't have anything to say. It's just online.
Yeah. Well, that means basically like you can do two things. You can have it be pre-recorded or live streamed, where basically the program that you have, whether it be speakers, presentation, discussions, sponsors, all that kind of stuff, all of that lives online through either a live stream or a pre-recorded video.
I don't know if conferences. Do you think a whole conference would be pre-recorded?
It's possible. I wouldn't suggest it.
That'd be weird.
But it's possible. For a lot of presenters and speakers, they like that interactivity with the attendees. That's what makes a conference really unique and effective, is allowing the audience to interact, ask questions, provide feedback and stuff. So that's why you'd want to do it virtual, live in the virtual sense. But it can be done through different types of means. Like it could be through YouTube Live, it could be through Zoom, it could be through platforms like Whova or Obvio. But these are basically like virtual ballrooms, so to speak, where people can go to this like what is it called? Not a website. Well, it's a website, but dashboard
platform.
Yeah, where
so they'll either like send you, like some conferences I've been on, they send you one email that has like the whole agenda with all these different links on it, and then like each day they'll send you the links for that day. So you're just always referring back to your email. So you have to like find that email and then see what you're supposed to be doing that day. Or there's ones where they just send you a link and then you log into a website and then that website has the links for what you're looking for.
Not only that, but it also can house like for breakout sessions or sponsorship booths, all kinds of resources, downloads of PDFs and things like that. So there's a lot of benefit to having it housed on something like a dashboard or a platform like that, because it just makes the user experience so much easier, more convenient, but it keeps them on in the conference versus if you're constantly going in and out of the conference, going back to your email. Because imagine if you're like us, you're getting emails throughout the day. So if you go back to your email inbox to go find that email again, and he's like, oh, Joe just emailed me. Oh, Sharon just emailed. And you start going down that rabbit hole. And then you possibly easily could lose a lot of your attendees that way.
And in those ones too, like they'll usually have the sponsors in a separate email. So you might just not ever open that email.
Yeah.
But if you get points on the dashboard for clicking on the sponsor link, then you're more likely to open it.
So the best way I can describe the dashboard type of experience is kind of like it's like your virtual conference showroom. So like when you go to an in-person event, like they have different areas, like there's the registration table, then there's the exhibitor tables, and then there's where you go to eat, and then there's the networking section, and there's the main stage, and then there's breakout sessions. Like if you go throughout the whole landscape of this conference, there's tons of different activities and things going on. But in this platform, you can do the same, like go to all of these different things, but from the convenience of your chair at your desk. Why are you smiling at me?
Because I just yawn while you're talking and you hate that.
Well, I got used to it. I just wanted to keep going and ignore the obvious. Okay, so now that we've explained pretty much what a virtual conference looks like and stuff, what aside from the benefits of doing it virtually because you can't meet in person, the other benefits of doing a virtual conference is that Brian says he yawned immediately after because he saw you yawn.
It's contagious.
As long as you're yawning only because you saw her and not because you're listening to me and the sound of my voice made you yawn as well. That would be hurtful. But the other reason why you'd want to do it virtual is because when you for a lot of conferences, there are special guest speakers that don't have the ability to get to your in-person conference, whether it be because they're from out of town or time differences or whatever it is, but they just can't physically go there. Sometimes it's a budget thing that you can't afford to fly in and house 10 different speakers. But in a virtual capacity, all they have to do is connect to you through their computer, and you have guests from around the world. So we've seen a lot of virtual conferences where you have speakers from international places. Like we just did one where we had one from Singapore, and then the next person was over in New York, and then Chicago and stuff like that. So their reach as far as who you can your reach as far as who you can have as guest speakers and presenters. Now there's like a larger, I guess, net that you can cast. Same goes for your attendees too. Like especially here in Hawaii, we have so many instances where we have annual conferences where outer islands, their guests have to make plans to fly over, get a rental car, go to the conference, spend all day there. Then maybe they have to stay overnight. And so they got to get lodging, then return the rental car and fly back home. Like it's a huge production versus someone who lives here on island who just shows up at 9 o'clock in the morning, goes back home and it's done. So for a lot of the outer island or neighbor island, I should say, neighbor island guests, conferences can be quite a bear. When they're virtual, it's so much easier to plan for and attend. And for organizations who have to pay to fly their teams out, now they can have their whole team registered and not have to worry about flying over 10, 15, 20 people at a time. All they have to do is just pay for the registration of those team members, and they can all attend from the comfort of their own computers. And Brian says he's digging my shirt. This is my Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell shirt. Very professional. What other reasons do you think people should consider as far as to why to do conferences virtually? I'll tell you, overhead costs can also dramatically be reduced because when you do a virtual conference, there's less things like, renting the ballrooms, paying for a staff, paying for parking validations, buying food, all that kind of stuff. A lot of the overhead costs you can cut down on by doing it virtually. Anything you'd like to add?
You're talking so long. Now I want to go away.
I'm sorry. I just figured you were not saying anything, and I hate silence.
I'm not saying anything because you're talking so long. Oh no, now it gets marital.
Do you have anything that you wanted to talk about or say?
You said everything.
Okay. What are some of the drawbacks or difficulties of doing a virtual conference?
My brain is just not working now. I don't know what to do.
Okay. Well, I will continue then. Brian's like, yes, this is what I'm here for. Look at that face. Oh, the ratings are going through the roof right now. So some of the drawbacks of taking your conference virtual is like the technology is just so unpredictable, and there's a lot of difficulty when you have especially people who are not so familiar with technology. And so especially if you have like presenters who are relying on old technology or a lack of understanding of how to use it, having them connect and become, virtual presenters, all kinds of possible issues can arise. For attendees, same thing goes. Some attendees just don't know how to use, no matter how much instruction or tips you give them, they'll have difficulty logging on or viewing and things. And then even from the production side, there's going to be technical issues that can arise as well. Similar to, in person, like there's technical issues. Like how many times have we been to a in-person conference and the microphone doesn't work, or the PowerPoint slides are not advancing, or they have to stall because someone didn't show up. Like all types of conferences have their share of challenges. So virtual conferences have the same thing, if not just a different kind of challenges that they have. The other drawback potentially could be that, for attendees, they have a lot more control over coming and going without you noticing. Whereas if you're in an in-person conference, if you see people get up and start walking out, like it's very obvious. So a lot of people will stick around just out of guilt and shame. But in virtual, you just log off and nobody will be judging you as much. You can kind of lose your audience a lot easier, I guess, in a virtual conference. You can also gain an audience easier because now you have a larger reach, because you can have international guests attend. They don't have to be there in person. You just did a big virtual conference called TVE, the virtual event, I believe. And that's kind of actually the thing that Jamie attended last year that got her interested in us producing virtual conferences, right? Because you saw how
No.
what did TVE do to help you?
It was just different. The thing that was the Amy Porterfield event where I learned how to do all this stuff.
Oh, okay. So as far as TVE goes, though, they do some really cool stuff, and you even brought some props and things. So you want to talk about that and how they do things, and how maybe some nonprofits can take some ideas from that to make their virtual events or virtual conferences engaging and interactive.
So TVE is a virtual event on virtual events. And it's by Sage something. I don't know what the company is called Sage. And they do events for like Tony Robbins and these big people, Dean Graziosi. I don't know, all these like speakers. So they do like events that bring in millions of dollars. And theirs are more for event type sales presentations. So it's not conferences necessarily, but the way that they run it is, I think, what is interesting for nonprofits, because they focus on their ideas for making an event good is focusing on content, connection, and community. So they say that those are the elements that get people engaged in what you're doing, and for them it makes people buy. But for a conference, it'll just make people have a good experience so that they want to come back next year.
Mm-hmm.
So the content is, of course, what the content is. And then the connection is connection between the audience and the speaker. And then community is between the audience members.
So what are some kind of things that people can do to create a stronger connection between the speaker and the audience?
So I think that is why you do it live and not pre-recorded as the first option. And then they try to make sure, their idea is making sure that the speaker has a good experience, because if the speaker is having fun, then the audience will have fun too. Like, the audience is not going to have fun if the speaker is like a deer in headlights and paralyzed. Like what?
Just kidding. I'm kidding. Oh no.
This is how you don't think about me having a good experience, because you just say everything that you know and I just sit here. This is marital issues. Sorry, Brian. But you like it, I hope.
Yeah, I know he does. See? There it is. Yeah, so going back to what you're saying as far
I
as...
know what I was saying now.
You were talking about how making sure the speaker has a good time because the audience will feed off of that. So Brian says, I never like conflict, but it's still fun to play along. I too hate conflict. It gives me great anxiety. So although I'm smiling, I'm sweating right now because I know what will happen once the cameras stop rolling. Okay, so as far as other things that people can do to make their conferences more fun and engaging. So you're saying to make the viewer feel, or the presenter feel like it's more fun. So how do you do that? How do you get them to have more fun?
So the way they do it is they do everything on their Zoom platform, which is the enterprise level Zoom. And they try to get it, or they get it so that the speaker can see the Zoom galleries. which is not something that we're equipped for yet. Or maybe now we are. You need like more monitors and more computers. I don't think we have enough computers. But if you can get the speaker to see the people talking, and then
what you're talking about though is like the speaker is in studio, not that
speaker has to be in studio.
Yes.
For these.
So what she's talking about is actually having like physical monitors in front of the speaker so that they can see. It's almost like the speaker gets an audience, a virtual audience. So we're not talking about like at their computer desk. They've set things up. This is like if you have a studio that you are broadcasting from, that they would come to, that you set it up so they can see all these monitors.
Yeah. So they have that so that so the speaker can see people reacting to what they're saying. And then they send out, here, Emmett, go see Daddy. Oh, he's very hot. They send out these boxes. So this is the swag box that you get when you attend their events, and it's this. Oh, see, that's their company name. It's all like branded, and they send out other stuff, but part of it is these emoji sticks. So they tell you to like hold it up so people will like, if they like the idea, then they'll show the rocket ship. Oh, it's focusing on us. Or like the heart. So you hold that up in your Zoom window so the speaker can see people's reactions. And they also do the floating emoji thing that we like. So it's all to give feedback to the speaker.
Yeah, because when you're in person, you can hear applause or laughter, see smiles and stuff. Virtual, it's not as easy to do that. So these are just ways to kind of get back some of those in-person experiences to help feed the energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anything else as far as how to get the speakers more connected to the audience?
Not that I can remember. I think just making sure that they're live.
You mentioned to me before, like there's benefits or differences between doing a conference on Zoom versus on like a platform like Obvio. For most people, they just assume it's only Zoom. So what are the differences, and why would you offer something other than Zoom for a conference?
I think if it's only on Zoom, then you're only getting it through emails, and that sucks.
Oh, so people doing conferences on emails, they wouldn't just have one Zoom room and people come in and out of that, and they can have breakout rooms for other parts of the conference?
What?
I
thought we already talked about this.
Okay.
Oh, this is so bad. I'm sorry.
Brian was saying that the emoji feedback is very motivating when speaking on Zoom because the chat can be super distracting. Which, yeah, when you see a bunch of little hearts and smiley faces, it's awesome. No, but I was saying, like, sometimes people who do conferences on Zoom, the earlier example you gave was like you constantly go back to emails and there's multiple Zoom links and stuff for the conference. Some conferences, they're just the whole conference is on one Zoom link, and just different speakers come and go onto that Zoom link throughout the day. It's really, really basic. And it just feels like a long Zoom call. But the point I'm bringing that up with is, if you've been to those kind of conferences, a lot of the times the response to that is like, it's just so exhausting. It's just like a super long Zoom call, which people, I think, at this point are fatigued by. So having a more targeted and produced virtual conference through something where it's interactive and organized on something like a platform, like a dashboard, takes you away from that dreary feeling of this informal long Zoom call that random people jump in and off of to do their presentations.
I think the points thing is also good because not everybody gets into gamification, but there's a lot of people that do. And just giving people something else to get interested in and excited by is more fun than just being in a Zoom room and that's it.
And so when she talks about that, I don't think we mentioned what point systems or gamification is. So what is that?
So if you're doing it on a platform like what we're doing right now with HanoCon, people can log in early and get points by doing different activities, like clicking on something or responding to a form or things like that.
Which is what Brian's doing right now to get him as the leader on the leaderboard of the HanoCon conference.
Mm-hmm.
But that also helps because, what people used to do for in-person events is like they wanted to make sure that attendees visited the exhibitor booths and stuff. And so things that they would incentivize them with is like giving them a little bingo card saying like, if you go to each booth and get a stamp there and fill out your card, then you can enter to win a prize. So it's kind of the same kind of principle where you just visit virtually different parts of your platform and stuff, and different actions and interactions and whatnot gets you different points. And so the more points you have, the better chance you have of winning, prizes that you give away at the end of the conference. So another great, fun, interactive way. And I think because the initial incentive was to get points, so attendees are sending messages to each other and stuff, but it's actually opened up conversations and built more rapport between the attendees and stuff. So it's actually really fun. That's what, my experience has been so far with the HanoCon interactions that we've been getting leading up to the conference. And speaking of which, as far as attendee interaction, what other kind of things have you seen that has helped in that aspect of getting the connection between the attendees increased or improved?
They do breakout rooms. Like that TVE thing focuses a lot on breakout rooms and keeping breakout rooms small. Like, I think 5 people is the biggest that they do, even though they have like thousands of people at their events. So having a small breakout room where, and then they give you like, they have one person be the timer. So everybody has an equal amount of time to talk. And then whenever they do a breakout room, when they come back to the chat, people are always chatting about how awesome their room was and all of that. So I think that's another thing. And they also, part of when they send out the email getting you ready for the conference, they say part of the etiquette is to have your camera on because they want everybody to be participating. So I think that's a big thing in just getting the feedback for the presenters and also having people interact, because like people will comment like, oh, like your virtual background or whatever.
Well, anything else that you can think of that you wanted to talk about in regards to virtual conferences?
I think we should talk about in Hawaii, like what is the benefit of doing this after COVID is done?
So what would you say to that?
Because like even though it's getting better, you still don't know what's going to happen, and conferences have to be planned like far in advance. So like they just canceled the NAB conference really close to when it was going to happen. That's the National Association of Broadcasters, I think. They do it in Vegas every year, and they canceled it, and everybody probably already had their hotel and tickets already booked.
Mm.
So you don't know what's going to happen when you're planning, when your event is set. I feel like now, like it could just be like a hurricane comes through. Like everything's so crazy right now, so planning for it to be virtual is probably less stressful.
And even for your speakers and attendees and stuff, like they can plan now. Like if you can plan it now, and because everything is so unsure, but by planning it as a virtual event, that's probably the most sure of the options. They can know, okay, yep, I can plan to be there. I can plan to present and stuff like that because it is virtual. Whereas if it's in person, travel plans and all that kind of stuff, you don't know if you're going to be away or not and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a great point.
And I think if you do, like a lot of people will, like I I've had conferences before that I wanted to go to and I didn't, just cuz first the cost of flying there, and then also cuz I'm shy and I don't want to be in a hotel by myself and have to like figure out eating and doing all those things. Like I don't want to be around people. So I've done a lot more conferences now just because I can do it virtually for cost and for my own uh, mental health. But I think a virtual conference, it's good for introverts, and then extroverts, if you do it on Zoom and you try to make the community aspect happen, extroverts have fun too.
Mm-hmm. And I think you'll start to see there's so much more. I think interactions and connections uh, doing it virtually because I think, like Jamie's saying, like introverts, they are comfortable with communicating on chat and stuff versus when you see someone in person, it kind of makes no sense to just be like, hi, I don't know you, but I'm just going to start talking to you. But when it's on these community chat boards and stuff, you just start interacting, and then next thing you know,
Mm-hmm.
you make friends. Brian said that he typically turns his camera off so that the attention can be on the speaker, which is very nice of you. But for the speaker's experience, just imagine just talking to a bunch of, you know, letters in the boxes, because that's what happens in Zoom, right? If you
Yeah.
turn your camera off, it's just like the letter of your name or a picture. And it's just like, I don't know if anyone's paying attention to me. If they could at least see you're there, and whether it's nodding or a smile or shaking your head or any kind of emotion, it at least helps the speaker feel like they're not just talking to a wall. Anything else?
I think in Hawaii, having it virtual allows na- neighbor islands to participate in a way that it was costly before. Because that was a big thing for Hano that they were thinking about before. Just how to, I think they were just thinking about how to involve other the all of the islands. So yeah.
Yeah, because I think for the neighboring islands, like they have so many hoops to get through to attend conferences. But now with the virtual option, they can be so much more involved, and it gives all the islands a greater chance now to network and create more connective relationships than ever before. So it's been a little silver lining of taking things virtual. Anything else? Okay. Well, I mean, I think we went through a bunch of stuff, which, regardless of the the way it was presented and how it started. I think there's a lot of great, tidbits here that'll help give you hopefully a better idea of what a virtual conference looks like, why doing it, what some of the benefits are, and also maybe help you give some thought to, instead of waiting and thinking, because that's what some organizations have done, is like, well, let's wait till this COVID thing pans out and then we can do our conference. And it's been almost, it'll be coming up on 2 years sooner than later, where if you were waiting, you're still waiting. And there's so many valuable experiences and conversations and lessons that could have been shared had you done your conference. And the way you can still do your conference is through virtual means. So worth looking into. And of course, I'm sure there are many more questions and thoughts. So if you have any of those and are watching this on demand, feel free to shoot us an email or write a comment in the comment section here. But even if you want to just have a meeting and just to, brainstorm or get a more personalized, discussion about virtual events or virtual conferences, feel free to shoot us an email at info@popcm.me, which will pop up right here on the bottom of the screen. Remember, it's .me, not .com. And yeah, we'd be happy to just talk with you. Maybe only one of us at a time, so that we don't put you in this awkward position. But regardless, we'd love to talk to you and share whatever knowledge we can with you and come up with other ideas as well. Okay. Any thoughts before we go? Okay. Well, Brian and the rest of you, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys got some good stuff out of this. If you haven't signed up and registered for HanoCon and you are in the nonprofit world, I highly recommend that you go and check it out. You can learn more about it through Hano's website or social medias. Just Google Hano, Hano, and then you'll find it. All right. That does it for us this week. Who knows what we'll talk about next week? Who knows if this is the last episode of Pop Live ever, because of how today went. You never know. Stick around and we'll find out. See you later. Bye.
Bye.